Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. It's your girl Fee. Before I even get started with today's video, I just wanted to apologize to you guys that I've not been able to get videos out on a weekly basis. Obviously, being pregnant and having hyperemesis has really taken a toll on me. For those of you who are wondering, yes, I'm still extremely nauseous, and at this point, I probably will be nauseous up until when I give birth. But the good news is that I am down to a single-digit number of weeks for my due date. So we're getting really close, and the nausea will finally be coming to an end, and I cannot wait. But anyways, I just want to thank you all so much for your support throughout this time. I really appreciate you guys, and hopefully once the baby's here and the dust settles, I'll be able to go back to a weekly schedule for getting these videos out to you guys. But on to what today's topic is going to be about. Today, I want to talk about 6 Dutch habits that I think I've picked up since moving to the Netherlands a little over a year ago. So you guys know how we do it here. Go ahead and get comfortable, get yourself your favorite drink, and we'll get right into it. So quick disclaimer, guys, this is just my personal experience. So these 6 things that I perceive as Dutch, you may not think are Dutch at all, and that's perfectly fine. So number 1 is that I barely pay for anything using cash. And I've also noticed that barely anybody pays for anything using cash as well. So mostly everyone here uses their card for payments, but what makes it really awesome is that it's contactless payments. So all you need to do is just tap your card, which is something that I was not used to in the US. A lot of stores now have started catching up to that in the US, but before that, I was really not familiar with it. But something else I've noticed too is that people use their phones. So it seems like there's a card that's in their phone that they use to pay as well, which I'm going to ask you guys, what is that? Because it seems really cool and I'd like to get it as well, but I've never really been sure what it is. So let me know what that is in the comment section when I see people pull out their phones and use something that looks like a card that's in their phone to pay for their transaction. Anyways, I have definitely taken to the habit of paying with my card. I mean, I barely have cash in my wallet, which is really quite the opposite of what it was like when I was in the US. Because I believe in America, we tend to use cash quite often. And I actually just read an article that said on the most recent study that was conducted that only about 20 to 25% of purchases of transactions conducted in the Netherlands are paid for using cash. So the Netherlands is obviously a very card-loving country. Unlike in the US where cash is king, cash is definitely not king here in the Netherlands, which I have to admit is really weird when we visited family at home over the summer, because then I found myself handling cash a little more than I'm used to, or at least a little more than I have over the past year. And also it was strange not having contactless payments when we did have to use our cards, because a lot of places still require you to put the chip into the card machine. So definitely something to get used to when we visited back home, but definitely something I've now adapted to now that we live here in the Netherlands, which I can't help but wonder if this is how it is all over Europe, where it's mostly common to use your card over cash. I don't know. You guys can let me know in the comment section. The second Dutch habit that I now do all the time is making sure that I'm early to wherever I'm going to. So growing up, especially in a Black household, there's always a joke that we follow something referred to as BPT, which for those of you who are not familiar with that, that's Black people time. And with that, it's quite common to show up to things 5 to 10 to 15, sometimes even an hour late. And I mean, definitely if you're meeting a friend at a coffee shop or a restaurant, or you're going for like a party or a family gathering, being late is expected and is very socially acceptable. Even my very first jobs when I was a teenager, most people turned up 5 to 10 minutes late and it was kind of expected. Whereas in the Netherlands, I find that people are very punctual. I find that the Netherlands is the kind of place where if you're meeting somebody and you're 2 minutes past the time that you are supposed to meet, so say it's 6 o'clock and it's now 6:02, the person might be wondering if you're even coming at all. So now, unlike before, I always feel obliged to text someone, even if I'm 3 or 4 minutes late, and just let them know, hey, I'm running a little bit late. Just give them a heads up because they take punctuality very seriously. So I will admit that In the past, time management has not always been my strongest suit, but since moving to the Netherlands, I will show up to places 5 to 10 minutes early. I mean, not even on time. Dare I say this, but I think even on time is pushing it. I think here in the Netherlands, it's expected that you show up 5 minutes earlier to wherever you're going. So again, when we visited family over the summer and we had a lot of different events, I always found myself showing up a lot earlier than I would in the past. And then I also found myself getting frustrated because everyone else always showed up late. So I've definitely adopted being punctual from living here in the Netherlands. The third Dutch habit is recycling. Heck, I made a whole video on this. If you haven't watched it, I'm going to link it somewhere on the screen and also in the description box below. So go check that out. So coming from the US, recycling was not such a big thing. I mean, we had a single stream recycling system, which is basically all recycling in one bin, which was kind of new in itself because I remember when the municipality came around and gave us all bins to start recycling. And so you kind of put your garbage can on one side of the driveway and your recycling can on the other side of the driveway, and that was it. As far as I remember, there's really no rhyme or reason as far as what goes inside the recycling bin, and I feel like most people don't really know either. So it's like, should I put newspapers in there, bottles? Recycling in general is very iffy, and I feel like the United States as a whole does not have the best recycling rate. Whereas the Dutch take recycling super, super seriously, and I've now learned to make that a habit. I am sorting absolutely everything. Cans, glass, plastic bottles, paper, cardboard, you name it. I mean, everything is fair game, and I have to say that we have far less garbage compared to when we lived in the United States. The fourth Dutch habit that I've adapted is orderliness, if that's even a word. But because the houses are so much smaller here in the Netherlands compared to the United States, you really need to make sure, or you really want to make sure that you're keeping order. Otherwise, it becomes a big mess. So in the US, for example, we had a 2-car garage that had plenty of storage space. So anything extra that we really didn't need in the house could be stored out in the garage. However, here in the Netherlands, we do not have the luxury of having a 2-car garage or a garage at all. So in order to keep our house clutter-free, we really have to keep order. And I've also noticed that when I visit a lot of my friends here in the Netherlands, that their houses are always kept in really good order. And I think that's because a majority of people live in small quarters. So they've just learned to adapt and don't buy all this unnecessary stuff. When we visited over the summer, I was looking through all our stuff that we left behind that didn't come over to the Netherlands that's currently in storage. And I could not understand why we even had half of it or why I'd even purchased half of it, because I cannot get myself to purchase a lot of those things here in the Netherlands. So the Netherlands has definitely helped me in keeping away from purchasing unnecessary things and just having what we need in the house. And that can be said for their outside spaces as well, because the cities are kept clean, the public bathrooms are clean. There's just a lot of order in general, and everything just seems to work. So I will tell you what, guys, we do not buy any unnecessary things in this house. We just do not have the space for it. I cannot get myself to live in clutter or filth, especially now that I'm pregnant. The fifth Dutch habit that I've picked up is that I'm actually considering having my baby at home. So obviously, guys, I'm pregnant. If you didn't know, now you do. And I'd made a video before that talked about the differences of being pregnant here in the Netherlands versus the United States. And one of the things that I'd mentioned shocked me was the fact that having a home birth here in the Netherlands was actually a common practice. That is something that I was not familiar with until I got pregnant. So in the beginning, it was a very foreign concept to me, and it's something that I wasn't necessarily comfortable with because I just wasn't educated on it. But now that I am almost getting to the end of my pregnancy, now that I've been seeing my midwife for quite some time, it's something that I've warmed up to. And truthfully speaking, guys, I think the reason why it was so shocking or surprising to me before is because I didn't really realize realize how much they prepare you for a home birth. So for example, your insurance company sends you a box, a kit with all the things that you need to give birth at home. In addition to that, the midwife prepares you and goes through all the steps of what a home birth entails. So unlike before, where I just couldn't fathom it in my mind, like a lot of it just really didn't make sense. Now that I'm more educated on it, now that I see how much they prepare you for it, it doesn't seem like this crazy, wild idea anymore. And it's something that I'm actually considering to do here in a couple weeks, but you guys will have to stay tuned for that to see whether I have a hospital or a home birth. And the last Dutch habit that I've adopted is waiting your turn. So in the Netherlands, for example, when a train comes into the station or a bus, absolutely everybody. I mean, it's kind of the social, I shouldn't say everybody, but it's the social standard that when you want to get into a train or bus, you step over to the side of the door and you wait until absolutely everybody that's coming out of the train or bus leaves before you can go in. So you're not kind of all coming in and going out at the same time. I mean, I'm sure this happens in some places in America as well, but it's definitely not as consistent as it is here in the Netherlands. I feel like in the US, people more sneak their way in. I mean, I used the subway for several years when I was commuting back and forth to work, and there was definitely no order in how people came out and got in. It was all just kind of like at the same time. So living here in the Netherlands, I've definitely picked up the habit of being a lot more patient and stepping off to the side, waiting until the people who are getting off all get off, and then stepping into the train or bus. All right, guys, that's it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed hearing about the 6 Dutch habits that I've picked up since living here in the Netherlands, please don't forget to give this video a like. If you haven't already, I hope you consider subscribing to the channel. Again, thank you so much for being patient with me during this time. I love you guys, and until next time, doei!